Welcome back to Without Shortcuts. Today we're taking a look at the top 10 gifts for your home chef.
When you're out there shopping for other people, don't forget about yourself. Get yourself something nice, like a subscription to our channel. Won't cost you a thing.
Before we get going on our list, we do want to take just a minute to say hello to our new friends down in Kansas City. Some of you may or may not know that last week we were in Kansas City catering a holiday event. It was an amazing experience. We put in a ton of work, but it was absolutely worth the effort. We met some of the nicest people we've ever come across. We had some incredible burnt ends. We met somebody that can play through Mike Tyson's Punch-Out without a continue, which may have been the most impressive thing we saw on the trip. But as a whole, it was an incredible experience. And we just want to say hello and thank you. We appreciate it. And we can't wait to come back and see you guys all again.
Absolutely. So Kansas City, if you're watching, drop us a comment down there so that we know you're out there. And if you don't know what we're talking about, head over to our Instagram page, and there's a few pictures up there that kind of shows a little bit about what we were doing.
Back to the topic at hand. When you're talking about buying gifts, it can be really difficult regardless of who you're buying them for. But having some really good ideas for a person's likes and dislikes makes a huge difference. So if they like being in the kitchen, if they enjoy cooking and doing some of those things, we're going to give you a couple ideas, a pretty broad range as far as price and quality and size and items and specificity of the items that you may be able to get for that person in your life that's in the kitchen a lot.
Now, you know as well as we do, it's really easy to go down and pick up gift card to some big coffee chain or down to a big box store or something. But if you're going to buy gifts without taking shortcuts, really the most important part is to know your audience. Whether you're shopping for a home chef or the neighbors that just moved in across the street or whatever, it's really important to know what they're into, what they like, things they already have, things that they don't have that they'd never buy for themselves. We realize that that's not always possible because, sometimes you're shopping for a work party, some other kind of holiday gift exchange that you're going through. So with that in mind, some of the things on this list are really specific for people that you know really well. Other things on the list are a lot more broad and general that, are just easier gifts to get for someone that you don't quite know as well.
These aren't necessarily in order as best to worst or top 10 counting down to 1, but they will give you a really good general idea and a good range of gifts. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it.
Any day in the kitchen for either one of us usually starts with a cup of coffee either in hand or somewhere close by. And chances are the same thing applies to the home chef that you're shopping for. So a coffee brewing system can be a great gift option.
Now there's clearly a lot of options for brewing coffee at home. In fact, when we were setting up for this shot, we realized we probably need to make a video on the best way to make coffee, or at least the difference in some of these. So look for that in the future. But as far as looking for a gift, there's a few things you really need to consider. You need to think about the quantity of coffee that the person you're buying for is going to drink, how important the quality is, and then the price point that you're willing to shop at. You can go with something like just your traditional drip coffee maker. It's going to make a lot of coffee pretty quickly. It's going to be there throughout the day, and you can get it for relatively inexpensive. As far as the quality, it's really going to depend on what you put into it for what you get out. But you can get a good cup of coffee out of that. If you're just looking for 1 or 2 really good cups of coffee throughout the day and you're willing to spend a little more, a full espresso machine may be the way to go. It's going to take a little time, a little bit of effort. It's going to be a little more expensive, but you're going to get a really good quality product. And then right in the middle is the pod machines. You can get a decent cup of coffee. You're going to lose a little in quality, and it's going to cost you a little bit more per cup, but the convenience is off the charts. Pop it in, quick cup of coffee, out the door. So that part's really great, but it's not going to be quite as good.
If the person that you're shopping for is willing to take a little bit more time and they want to make a cup of coffee without taking shortcuts, you can look at some of these hands-on options that we've got down here in the front, whether it's the French press, cold brew, or if they're willing to spend, 15 to 20 minutes to make just a couple of cups of really good coffee, the pour over system is a great option.
Now, all of this comes back to what we said at the beginning. Know your audience, know what they're looking for, get an idea of, what they're expecting or what they would enjoy. If you have questions or if you know somebody and you kind of know a few things about them and you want a suggestion, hit us in the comments, hit us on social media. We'd love to tell you what we think. Obviously, we've been through all the methods and we have very strong opinions on coffee.
Right. Now, if you want to go with something maybe a little smaller, a little bit easier, if the person you're shopping for has already got some kind of a brewing system, or you're looking for a coworker or that holiday gift exchange that you're doing at work, you can go with like a coffee grinder, makes a great option. There's a lot of different filter options that, especially for the pour over system, can really elevate your cup of coffee. And then, of course, a good cup of coffee obviously starts with good coffee. So if you are fortunate enough to have a local coffee roaster, like, we have Weekend Coffee Roasters here in town, and also Margin Coffee Roasters, that they roast up some fantastic coffee. That can be a great option. It's usually a really high quality coffee, and it's easy to find different varieties of coffee that you just don't find anywhere else.
So we've pretty much had a cup of coffee out of each of these just to get warmed up for this. So we're rearing to go. Let's see what's next on the list.
Next on our list is an item that is functional, it's relatively inexpensive, and if the person that you're shopping for doesn't already have one, it is quite the crowd pleaser, and that's the immersion blender.
So the immersion blender is very functional. You can use it from anything from whipping cream to smoothing out your sauces and getting everything into shape. It's also recommended for a lot of recipes, so having it on hand when that comes up is obviously very useful. You can also pick one of these up at a very reasonable price for a pretty high quality piece. So it's right in that price budget. It fits a lot of people and is very applicable and functional for a lot of those gifts that you'd like to give.
The other nice thing is they are relatively small, and as we know in most kitchens, storage space is definitely at a premium.
If the person that you're shopping for already has an immersion blender, you can certainly look at moving up to something like a hand mixer, which has the 2 beaters sticking down. It's great for beating eggs or making frostings or some fillings or something like that. Still small and compact. Maybe not quite as many uses, but a very reasonable gift.
If you're feeling really generous, another option in the mixing category is the stand mixer. Now, obviously, we've shown in a lot of our other videos that it gets a ton of use. It is really convenient, but again, they are on the more expensive side, especially for a good quality one that's going to last a long time. Now, before we get mixed up, let's see what's next on the list.
Coming in at number 8 on our non-specifically denominated list, we are going with the category we call form over function. Now, this category we're looking at as things that a typical home chef may not have specifically, but they have something in the kitchen that serves that purpose, and they're just not willing to go out and either take the time or spend the money on buying the really nice version that looks really good to provide that service that something else could simply provide.
Things for us that fall into this category are serving platters, nice wooden salad bowls. They usually come with the wooden utensils. And then our personal favorite is the wooden cutting boards. Now, again, most of these things are more expensive than the more functional pieces, which is why oftentimes people won't go out and buy them for themselves, but that's what makes them a great gift.
Now, if you're looking for something that's in that lower price category, the gift exchange, the stocking stuff, or anything like that, another great option in this category would be something like a wax or a wood conditioning product. A lot of people don't think about this, but having it in the kitchen to maintain your really nice cutting boards, your salad bowls, any of your wood serving utensils. I've even used this on the sides of my cabinets because It just works great. It's a really good option and something a lot of people are really going to appreciate having and probably wouldn't think about getting for themselves. Now, when you buy this, make sure you're buying something that's food grade, because you don't want to go out and put a bunch of random chemicals and things that you're going to be serving food on. So do a little research, make sure you're getting it. This stuff is called Beekeeper's Gold. It's delightful. I use it for a ton of things, and it does a great job maintaining all the wood in my kitchen. So that being said, let's maintain our pace and go ahead and see what's on the next item.
Next up on our seemingly random list is the seemingly random gift, the salt cellar.
Now, almost everything you make in the kitchen is going to have some salt in it somewhere, whether it's just a little pinch into your whipped cream or a bunch of it that's going into a marinara sauce. But when you've got the salt cellar on hand, it's so easy to just pop top off, grab the amount that you need and toss it in. You'll never go back to just a shaker or pouring it out of a box or any other way. This is so convenient and it's so easy regardless of quantity. You'll never go back once you've used one of these. Now, not only is this going to improve the quality of your cooking, but it's also going to improve your enjoyment in the cooking process. So anybody that doesn't have one of these, it's going to be a great gift. It's also one of those things that you can get a very simple, easy one for just, 10, 11 bucks, something like that. Or you can get very fancy, very decorative and elaborate and just all over the place for really expensive. So whoever you're shopping for, you're going to be able to find exactly something that'll fit that person's needs.
So also in the category of sprinkling things is the jar top flour sifter. Now, if you've watched some of our other videos, you know that we use this thing a ton, and they're really simple, really convenient. They fit right on top of just a standard mason jar. And especially if you're looking for just that little stocking stuffer gift, they're really inexpensive. So let's see how the rest of our list shakes out.
Next on our list is actually a what not to buy your home chef. Now, I know that it's really tempting, but please, from us, please avoid the gimmicky, as seen on TV gadgets.
We know the infomercial makes things look all shiny and convenient, and how these things do so many different things, like they slice and they dice and they chop and they shred. And if you act now, they'll throw in free shipping plus a second item at no extra charge. But realistically, most of these things are a low quality, single use item, and all they're going to do is take up space in your kitchen.
So just as an example of kind of what we're talking about here, these weren't a gift. It's a really long story, but essentially, courtesy of Dolores Kloffenstein, we have these, bear claw pullers for pulled pork. They're probably great for what they do, but they're still in the packaging. I've had them for 2 years because when I get to that point where I'm going to pull something apart, I grab a couple of forks, or I just use my hands and I pull it apart, and then it's done, and I never think to actually use these. So it's just, I'm sure they're great. The packaging says you can move meat from one surface to the other without having to pick it up, almost like UGG gloves or something, but it just never crossed my mind to not just pick it up and move it.
I think you can also use them to climb trees or to accessorize your Wolverine Halloween costume.
Yes, and both of those are probably better uses than what the actual recommendation is. And since this is a cooking channel, or at least we like to think so, we encourage you to buy gifts that your chefs actually need or want, and not something that somebody tries to sell you on some TV infomercial.
Right. Now, the other thing that we wanted to touch on in this category is definitely controversial, but that is the chef's knife. Now, if you've seen our
wonderful top 10 kitchen essentials video,
you know that in our opinion, this is probably the number one piece of equipment in a kitchen. It gets the most use, it's the most versatile, but that's also part of why we're referencing back to it again now, because this is such a specialized and personalized piece of equipment. It can be really hard to shop for this for someone else.
Now, just kind of as an aside, referencing back to that top 10 list we did a few weeks ago, some of those items have kind of snuck into this list, but that list is more for people just getting started. So if you're shopping for people that are just setting up a kitchen, just getting started, graduating from high school or college, moving into their first place, reference back to that video. There's a lot of really good ideas on there also. This list is more for people that are already pretty well established and kind of ready to move on with what they're doing. So speaking of moving on, let's go ahead and move on to the next item on our list and see what's there.
So as we immerse ourselves deeper into this list, we come to the sous vide, also called the immersion circulator.
Now this made our honorable mentions on our previous top 10 list. Our previous list being essential kitchen equipment. The reason this wasn't on there was because if you haven't used this before, you don't know that it's essential. But once you've used this, you see what it can produce, you get past that it's a little strange, absolutely becomes essential, and anybody that doesn't have one of these is going to be thrilled that they do.
Now, if the person that you're shopping for has one of these already, you'll know because they will have told you about it.
That might just be us that talk about it like that. But
Maybe, but there's a good chance. But these are so great for cooking vegetables, eggs, all of your proteins, you know, all your meats. Everything that you cook with this comes out moist, juicy, and delicious. And when you're shopping for an immersion circulator, you can shop across a bunch of different price points. The differences across the price points generally are different features. Some of them will come with Bluetooth, things like that. Lots of different power levels, different wattages. And the difference between the wattages are the speed with which it will heat up the water, the amount of water that it'll heat up. But generally speaking, functionally, they're all pretty much the same.
And really, even the really low-end, less expensive ones do a great job, and the food's going to come out great. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking for something for somebody that already has a sous vide, there are a couple of good options. One is just these nice big plastic tubs. These you fill with water, you put your sous vide in it, it heats the water up, you cook your food there. That way you don't have to use one of your large pots, you still have it available for any other cooking you're doing. And it makes just a good, easy, throw it in the back room container to cook your food with the sous vide. The other option is to have a vacuum sealer. You put your food in there, maybe some marinades, you vacuum seal it, everything's good, you just throw it right down in the tub. Works great. You can get them for fairly cheap these days. And anybody that has a sous vide, if they don't have a vacuum sealer, would be much appreciative to have one as a gift.
All right, so these transitions are getting a little rough here. We're going to see if we can iron some things out, and we'll see what's next on the list.
Speaking of ironing things out, cast iron is next on the list.
Cast iron is a really broad gift category, but we have done that intentionally. If you're shopping for somebody who doesn't have any cast iron, then the choice is really easy. But if they do, there's still a lot of great options that you can choose from.
So for the person that has no cast iron, we would probably recommend going with a skillet. Now you can go with something smaller like the 8-inch skillet, something a little bigger, more versatile in the 10-inch skillet, all the way up into the really large 12-inch skillets. These are going to be very versatile. You can do almost anything in them. Which size you pick kind of depends on what that person is doing in the kitchen, how large meals they're doing. If they want to do larger portions, you get them a larger pan. Pretty simple. But the skillet in general is going to be used a lot. It's going to last almost forever, and it's going to be well appreciated once a person gets used to cooking on cast iron.
Now, a close second to the skillet is the cast iron Dutch oven. Another really versatile piece of cookware. You can use it on the stove, you can use it in the oven, you can use it for a lot of different food items. If you get the right one, you can even take it camping and throw it in the fire.
Now, if the person has a couple different skillets, they've got the Dutch oven, there's still options out there in this category. You can look at something like a crepe pan or a griddle pan. You can look at a full-size griddle. You can look at muffin tins, pie pans, just about anything. If somebody's put the money into starting their collection of cast iron, they're probably going to appreciate having more items added to that collection. Just don't get too specific, kind of like we mentioned when we were talking about the gadget pieces. You know, if you get something that is holiday specific or if it's shape specific, you start getting into one of those things that tends to get left in the cabinet, and you don't want that. You want something that's definitely going to get used.
Now, a stocking stuffer item that kind of goes along with the cast iron is a digital temperature probe. Now, there's a broad range of price points for something like this. They have lots of different features on them. They're great for using on your grill, in your smoker, in your oven. If you're roasting a big piece of meat, you can get them that connect.
Or in your cast iron.
Right? You can get them that have Bluetooth. They connect to your phone. They'll alert you when your food reaches different temperatures. It's just a real good way to have a real precise idea of what's going on with your food.
So we're going to go ahead and get some of this stuff cleaned up, and we'll see what's next on the list.
The worst part of any cooking job is definitely the cleanup. So next on our list is baking mats.
So kind of like the salt cellar, this is a little bit specific and a little bit odd, but it makes cleanup so much easier, so much faster when you're just tired and ready to sit down at the end of the meal. Having these on hand is absolutely worth it. Now there's a few different options. You can go with the silicone reusable mats. They're great. They just slide right into the bottom of your tray. Wonderful. And then the same thing with the pre-cut parchment paper, which we've only recently found. These are great. They're just disposable and easy. We absolutely recommend them.
Either way, pulling one of these out of your baking sheet and either throwing it in the trash or rinsing it off in the sink beats the heck out of scraping burnt food off of your baking sheets. In fact, our hosts in Kansas City, Jill and Garrett, when we were down there at our event, they made sure to get us a few extras of these, and it made a world of difference with the amount of food that we were putting out. Just made the cleanup so much easier. So thank you guys for that. We appreciate it.
Definitely. That was great. Now, as kind of the stocking stuffer secondary idea to this, kind of sticking with the oddly specific and non-stick ideas in some ways, we're going to go with the proofing containers. So this is one of those things where if you don't have it, you might not think about it, but when you do have it, it's great. You've seen the plastic one that we use. We just kind of plop our dough in there. It's got a cover on it, put it in a warm spot, let it go until it doubles. It's wonderful to have. The other thing in that category that's really nice, it's called a Banneton. Also commonly referred to as a proofing basket. In fact, if you go into a store looking for one, ask for a proofing basket because apparently nobody knows what a Banneton is. But these, especially for everybody that started making sourdough during the pandemic and, you know, that just kind of being a thing, people love these. So if you're looking to do something different, this is one of those things that everybody doing that probably wants and probably very few of them actually have. So it's a great gift idea for those people.
All right, so we are honing in on the top of our list. Let's see what's next.
The penultimate item on our list today is a knife sharpening kit and a recommendation on a good YouTube video to learn how to use it.
Now, when we talk about a knife sharpening kit, we're talking about whetstones with at least 2, preferably 4 different grits, along with a strop and maybe some kind of an angle guide. And we know it can be tempting to use one of those electric knife sharpeners, but that definitely falls into the gimmicky, gadgety category.
I mean, really, if you're giving one of those electric sharpeners, the gift you're giving is kind of sharp knives that are eventually going to be ruined and just have to be replaced.
These kits are not expensive, and as long as you take care of them, they're going to last for a long time, and not nearly enough people have these and are putting them to good use. And as an aside, whether you're standing at the counter sharpening your knives or standing back at the stove stirring a pastry cream or a risotto, being comfortable is really important.
This is why we also recommend some anti-fatigue mats or floor rugs to go in your kitchen. These make such a big difference having them on your floor while you're cooking for hours on end throughout the day. Just, you can't go wrong having some kind of good heavy mat on the floor to stand on while you're doing your cooking.
Now, we'd show you these ones, but they're too big and they're kind of gross. So here's a picture from the internet to show you what we're talking about.
Yeah, they've seen the microwave. I'm sure they believe us, and nobody has a problem with that. But take our word for it. These make life so much better in the kitchen. We highly recommend it, and it does make a great gift. Now, speaking of passing the time, we're going to pass this off to our number one item on the list and finish this thing up.
The next item on our list is a personal favorite of ours, and that's cooking attire, specifically aprons, and in our case, chef's coats.
Now, these definitely run the gamut with a huge variety of price points. What you're looking for here is something that's not crazy expensive, but you want it to be well made, something that's going to last a while, and give you good value for what your money is.
So aprons are a great place to start. They come in a lot of different styles, sizes, different materials. Again, keep it simple. Know who it is that you're shopping for. If you want to step it up a little bit, you can go with a chef's coat, which is obviously our personal preference. Again, you're just looking for something that fits well, that's well made, something that's got some pockets on it, maybe a utensil pocket on the sleeve. Also works great for holding your pen. There's a lot of different styles to choose from. Basically, you're looking for something that is nice and clean that you can put on before you come into the kitchen, so that nothing's falling into your food and you're keeping your own clothes covered.
Now, there's one item on this list that you're expecting to see that hasn't made it yet. And that is, of course, the high quality Tupperware butter dish. Now, we just assume that you've either gone out and purchased this marvelous product, or you've purchased it as a gift already for those chefs in your life. And that's the only reason that this didn't make it onto our list. But all things considered, thanks for coming and watching this video. We really hope that for those chefs that you're looking for gift ideas, that we've given you something to think about. We know there's a lot of things on this list, but we just wanted to make sure that there was an option out there for everybody. Just remember, when you're looking, think about who it is, know your audience, think about what they need. Find something on this list that fits. We're sure that they'll be happy with it. If you need any recommendations, if we can answer any questions, please reach out on social media, Twitter or on Instagram, and we'll do everything we can to answer your questions. But for the rest of this season, as you're out there, skip the shortcuts and gift buying, follow our recommendations. We really hope this helps, and happy holidays to all of you guys.
Thanks, guys.